Sup flappers, everyone. I'm gonna settle this once and for all. I've been getting DMs all over the place from everybody regarding this issue, and I'm gonna not only tell you guys what's going on, but I'm gonna give you my first-hand experience to try and explain why these rules are coming in and why, to me, they're not that surprising. And I'll tell you in the future potentially what other rules that could come out which may affect Genshin. It most likely won't, but I'm going to talk about everything, right? To preface everything, I've lived in China for half my life. I've worked in the media field in China, doing creative work within China, following these tight regulations for a good portion of my time as well. I know a lot about what's going on inside China culturally and certain phenomenons. I have a ton of friends who are still now living in China from my school days, and they have families, and they're telling me exactly what's going on when it comes to these kind of rules being set in China. And I know a lot of people will point to rules like 1, 2, 3, just completely saying they're absurd. There's no way. But once hopefully I tell you what is going on in China, you would somehow understand the need for something like this. I'm not saying it's the best thing to do, but you can at least see why some of this stuff is necessary. So with all that said, like, subscribe if you guys enjoy this type of content. I cover everything about Genshin, from news, dramas, character releases, everything. All right, so let's just start from the very beginning. What is this? Strictly speaking, this is a media and internet type of restriction rule set now being put into place to further monitor and restrict, in a way, live stream platforms and video game exposure. Now, why is this a problem? If you guys know, in China, the speed of progression is so insanely fast that they kind of straight up jumped over the need for PC computers. Now, this is important because we need to help you guys understand that what's going on in China and the type of lives people are living in China. Most people in the family, they don't own a PC computer. In fact, internet cafes was kind of like the bridging point between like just no computer at all, and then they're going to internet cafes, and then they're straight jumping to mobile phones. Right now in China, you can leave your house without a wallet, without any identification. You can leave your home with just your mobile phone, and everything is taken care of. Your banking, your legal documentation, even your COVID health card scans are it's all dealt with through your cell phones. A little device that you carry on with you is literally your everything. So naturally, people spend a lot of time on these devices. So that's why you guys see games in China coming out in recent years of popularity are all mobile games. And I've talked about this in my live streams, right? I want you guys to understand the lives of the people in China. They don't glue themselves to TVs as much, especially the younger generation, nor do they glue themselves to computers. For the most part, they don't. Of course, there's people who still spend hours upon hours in internet cafes. It's much cheaper than buying a computer and then like playing from home. China, for the most part, just haven't had that development. They jumped over it. Now, of course, rich people have computers at home. They can play from home. But I'm just saying, for the vast majority, a big portion of people enjoy their entertainment at these kind of cafes. So what ends up happening is that naturally they are away from their parents' supervision when this happens, right? Because if you're playing at home, right, now, of course your parents, after if they come off work and you're still awake, you can get a scolding, which is what we grew up with for the most part. However, for these kids in China, they finish school, they do after school activities, they can play some basketball, play some football, whatever, and then they go to these internet cafes, and then they can eat in there. They stay there until like 9, 10, and by the time they go home, sometimes even later, right, they sometimes meet their parents, sometimes their parents aren't even home yet. And we're going to talk about the working philosophies and in China a little later, because that's hugely influential to why it has come to the point that we're at right now for government to step forward and put rules in place to help regulate behavior. So now, not only do these kids, the youth, have cell phones that take care of everything. Everything's linked, right? And now they also don't need to go home after school. They can go do whatever they want, especially with parents who are very busy and they're not home anyway. So it's like, what's the point of going home, right? Like if you guys watch those animes where you go home and you're all alone and the place is dark and there's nobody home, and it's a very sad feeling. So the social aspect of it is that it's encouraging young people to kind of group together and go do activities, whether it be like eating, going to karaoke, playing sports, or going to these internet cafes. What ends up happening is these children, essentially, like teenagers, they get taken advantage of by these companies, by these live streamers, because there's very little parental supervision. You guys might think like, Walrus, you're overreacting, you're overstating this fact, but I cannot emphasize this enough. I beg to differ. I cannot emphasize this enough. For the most part, even when I was in China, the people I would meet, even sometimes my own friends, right, with different circumstances, they're like, oh, you know what, you want to like stay out a little longer? Like my parents won't be home until like midnight, so we can stay out until 10-11 p.m. if you want. Like I don't want to get my ass beat, you know? But they're always wanting to spend more time outside and just to mingle away from parental supervision. And this stems from another big issue, and we're going to talk about that, and that is this 996 philosophy, working culture in China, right? It's the idea that competition is so fierce that if you don't work from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 6 days a week, that's what 996 stands for. From 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 6 days a week. So that's 12-hour shifts per day, 6 days a week. And let me tell you, nowadays it's getting even worse to like I've been hearing people say like 10-10-7 in some cases. Now, why is this the case? It's because there is the understanding of if you won't do it, somebody else will. That's the situation in China right now. And to put food on the table, both parents for the most part have to work from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 6 days a week. I'm talking like white collar and even some blue collar jobs. Both parents working their asses off because that's what's demanded of the people to push this kind of progression. I know this video is not strictly Genshin related, but you guys have to understand what is going on in the country for you guys to get a better picture of why these rules are being put into place. So I see a lot of people saying like, you know, the government is essentially doing the parents' job, right? Shouldn't the parents be regulating this? Shouldn't the parents take different cases with their children and regulate their consumption of such media or whatnot, like game time, right? Another one, people was like, what, restricting game time for teenagers? That's kind of crazy as well. And that's not, because the parents literally are not there. They physically cannot be there. It's either working 996 or you lose your potentially. And that's not a risk most families are willing to take. To climb to the point most white collar or most stable families are at takes years or a lot of connections. You need to know people. And by doing something so drastic, it's like, hey, I want to cut down on my work hours, you're literally slapping the face of potentially the person who recommended you or got you in the door in the first place. It's not something as easily to say like, I need to prioritize my family. Well, if you want to prioritize your family, do you want to put food on the table? Do you want your kid to get a good education? Do you want to take care of your parents, right? Or do you care about the benefits that the work gives you? All this stuff is being taken. It's not a choice, people. I see a lot of you guys commenting saying things that are very ignorant, and I need you guys to understand it's not a choice at this point for these people. Both parents, 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, bare minimum for the most part. And that's just to live a normal life. I'm not going to say they're still scraping the barrel, because for the most part they're not. But when it comes to monitoring their children and making sure they're, doing the right thing, not playing video games, not getting influenced by this stuff, they just don't have the time nor the mental capacity to still do this. Then you guys might be wondering, well, Walrus, hot dang, why do they have kids, right? Another great freaking question. Why have children if you are not in the position to even take care of them and to raise them? Well, this goes back to another cultural thing, and that is societal pressure. I don't know where you're from. If you're from some sort of, like, it can be Southeast Asia, it can be South Asia, it can be East Asia, doesn't matter. If you're from an Asian country, there's a chance that your family has pressured you into starting a family. For women, it's getting married when they're like past like their 20 somethings. And think about it, people from the West, if you're getting married in your like early 20s, that's right after you get out of college, and then you have kids a couple years after that. I got a ton of friends who had kids back when they're like 25, 24, and they're working jobs, they're taking care of their parents, and then they're also taking care of their kids. How do you sustain that life? It's a societal pressure. your aunties, your cousins, everyone is expecting this of you. And you can tell them, well, screw you, I'm not going to do this. But then you're literally shutting down a lot of potential opportunities when your aunties, uncle sees like, oh, you're not putting in the effort yourself to lead a successful life. Why should we help you? So there's a lot of pressure to make sure you follow through with the traditional norms, and you see all your friends doing it, everybody's doing it, and what are you gonna do? You follow the norm, and now you're stuck in a position where you still don't know what you're doing with your own life, and you have kids and you have to work 996, right? What options do most of these people have? Not much, I can tell you that, unless you're from a privileged family where you can wait a little bit longer to make decisions, or have your parents take care of most of your finances, right? Buy you a house, buy you a car, set you up for life, and tell you, hey, you know, it's fine, you can wait until you're 30, maybe even a little later if you want to start a family or not, we don't care. Yeah, those people exist, but for the most part, it's not like that, right? People are living this kind of formulaic life, and it's incredibly shallow for us to judge them by saying, then why have kids? Or saying, okay, then why don't you take better care of your kids? Because these people most of the times are not put into a position where they're able to do the things that we have been used to in the West. All right, so that's why there's a lot of parents in China who knows, it's not like they don't know, they know their kids are being influenced or addicted to gaming or have problems with self-control, and they have been very vocal in some regards when it comes to the government to say, put some restrictions into place. China is a place where to register for certain content, to consume certain content or experience certain like games, you have to use your real ID, and it's very easy to track people or to lock people out of game time, and that's what they have done right in the past, and they're continue doing so. I know the legislation that's been putting forward today is talking more about live stream restrictions and influence that these live streamers have, like their political views or whether they're good citizens. So it's not 100% on track with what we're talking about, but you guys have to understand the current scope of the situation in China is that most children are unsupervised. If you're lucky, their grandparents might be supervising, but like, what do the grandparents really know? Like, come on, you might be saying like, oh, grandma, I have homework on my phone, and then they just sit there and play Genshin or something like that. It's not sustainable, and it's not something that works for the most part, right? Having grandparents take care of your kids. So it's inevitable that at a certain point, the government will have to step forward and put these rules into place to assist parental guidance. So like essentially you're raised by the country's philosophies and rules, and that's a whole different thing I don't want to get into in today's video. If you guys ever want me to hear me talk about this more, I'm more than happy to share this with you guys. If you guys want me to talk about it on live streams or in a podcast, I'd love to hop in and just break all this down with you guys. I don't really care like about political backlash. It's just it's not the right place and the right time to talk about this stuff in this video. Okay, so if you have any questions, comment down below. I'll do my best to answer them with my experience. And I'm sorry about the dog bark in the background. There's nothing I can do about it. She's going crazy. All right, but thank you guys for making it all the way to the end here. I know it's a longer video than my usual ones, but I hope you enjoyed it nonetheless. Love you guys, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Until then, stay safe. Peace.